Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Beau. It is May 7th, and we're going to get through Genesis 13 and 14 today, so pretty stoked with that. Should be pretty cool. It is a famous section of the Bible that we find ourselves in, and if you haven't known already, the book of Genesis is filled with a lot of famous stories. I mean, popular for sure. These things certainly have had an impact on the minds of human beings throughout the ages, that is. And its words have certainly penetrated, and I would imagine it's because it makes sense. It makes sense when we look at this world. We certainly see that the Bible very early on has an incredible surgical grasp of the human condition, the way humans are. It is very, I don't want to say similar, because it's exactly like the way humans are today. And so we are honed in now on a descendant of Shem named Abram. And we saw that Noah had 3 sons, and there was a being fruitful and multiplying, and another expansion of people on the planet, the population, and the areas to which people covered the earth. And as human beings expand, so they've become, in a sense, independent even more of God, even with an absence of God. As they've grown, there's been more distortions. Things have gotten distorted. What is true about God is distorted. There's a lot of different things that are distorted. So I'm not surprised that today maybe things are a little distorted, right? Maybe not everybody has the truth. Okay, so I keep sipping my decaf because it tastes so good, and it's kind of beautiful day, by the way. Gosh, this morning was gorgeous. I don't know what time you were up. I was up at 5:30 in the morning today. So you can even put in the comment corner. I'd love to see, what hours do you get up? What is the hour that you normally get up? Are you one of those early birders? I'm the guy that when 8:30 gets going, I'm starting to fade, After 9 o'clock, I'm really starting to fade. I mean, if I'm doing something, I could stay up late, I think, especially if it has to do with like music, like a concert or stuff like that. But as far as, just on a daily basis, me staying up late, it doesn't work. By the way, I hope you guys enjoy the picture of Sylvia and myself when we were quite young and when we were getting married at Calvary Chapel of Simi Valley with our pastor David Guzik back in the day. Super cool. Thanks, brother, for that wonderful suit you let me borrow. Your only suit and the only suit that I had at the time. It wasn't a guy that had any suits, really. And not many, that's for sure. And this one was kind of an interesting green. So isn't that cool? Green suit on your wedding day. Sylvia wore this cool dark blue dress that was super cool. Anyway, Mary says she's also an early bird, and she digs the picture there. Laura says she's waking up at 5:45 and 6, so that's right. Hey, you guys are right there with me. How early is early, by the way, Mary? I know some people that go, oh, I'm up at 4 a.m. Wow. It's like, man. And then I know some people that are like, hey, I really like my time. I stay up late, till 2 a.m. And I'm like, whoa, that's, every day. Whew. Okay, so Genesis 13. So Abram left Egypt. Okay, Mary, 5. So that's, I'm right there with you. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north to the Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all they had owned. I mean, it's a little family, right? These guys have known each other since they were growing up. And Abram was very rich in livestock, silver and gold. I could relate to that growing up with people, right? Being married to someone you grew up in a sense with. I mean, me and Sylvia, we grew up together. We really did. We went to the same schools practically. I say practically because I think she went to a Catholic school in elementary school for a time. And then by sixth grade, 7th grade, she was in our junior high. But she lived 4 houses down, so I've known her for, since we were kids, for sure. And Abraham with his family. It says, from the Negev, they continued traveling by stages towards Bethel. And they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai. It's kind of neat sometimes to look up these places, too, and what they mean. It kind of helps us maybe understand what was on their mind at the time and where they had camped before. And there was the same place where Abraham had built the altar, where there he had worshipped the Lord again. A place of worship, right? And he pitched it between Bethel and Ai. And Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also became very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goats and herds of cattle and many tents. So like today, where, when you have a lot of stuff, obviously you got some money. It's kind of really odd. I always found this kind of odd, is that a lot of people that have money don't think they have money. And I've always found that quite weird. Like people live in super nice places. Like, hey, I'm living in the nicest place, you can live in practically in the town, but we're not rich. And I always like, okay, like, what do you mean by that? Do you mean you're not rich like Bill Gates? Do you mean you're not rich like, Michael Jordan but you are wealthy. You have money. You live in a place that has, things are expensive, and, so what do you mean you're not rich? I think we're a lot more rich than you think we are. And I think if we did a comparison of everybody on the planet and how they live, and you were to look at your situation, where would you rank? Yeah, probably be pretty high. Maybe I just need to be thankful today, just very grateful today, and realizing that maybe I need to learn how to give even more and be better at giving. And it says, finally, Abram said to Lot, let's not allow this conflict to become between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. You notice how people have conflict over their money. It'd be cool if everybody just gave your money away all the time, because then you wouldn't have so much conflict with everybody about your riches. But people tend to bark all the time about, whose is what and what's whose. And, this is behavior that we kind of learn as we're growing up with our siblings. You have a brother, you have a sister, you kind of go at one another, right? This is mine, this is mine, this is mine. You did this to me, I did this to you, da-da-da-da-da, and you get in fights. I used to fight with my brother all the time growing up. I lived with my mom until I lived with my mom and my brother until I was about 13 or 14. And then I left and I never went back to live with my mom or my brother. Love my brother too. Oh boy, man, do I love my brother. And I missed my brother a ton. But it was what was needed at the time, and that's what happened. But I remember fighting with my brother when we were kids. And then I remember one day when I was about 12, I picked on my brother, got in a fight with him again, and he just punched me in the face. Just one punch. Boom. And then I recognized that, man, he's a lot bigger than me now. He's my older brother. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm going to win these fights anymore. And so we stopped fighting. I don't know if you're contentious. I don't know if you find that there's something in you that's always wanting to be contentious, especially when it comes to money, arguing about money and things, possessions, things like that. We got to be careful that our riches are in heaven and our riches aren't on this planet, that we really do kind of live lightly with the things that we have. But we have to, call a spade a spade. If you're living in a beautiful home or you're living in a nice area, it's, you can't say, well, we don't have any money, but, you got this. No, you got money. That's why you're able to buy what you buy. That's why you're able to get what you get. Maybe we don't feel like we have money because we tend to spend it on various things. What's your budget for going out to eat? What's your budget, for other things? And then you start going, oh, I see where my money's going. It's amazing. I've lived on nothing and I've had, it seems like, everything. And I was happy in both situations. Man, I was great to be married to Sylvia, living with 5 people in a home. Because when we got married, we lived in a college home with 5 other people. We had a room. Man, I think that room might have been, $400. Maybe something like that. And boy, that seemed like a lot of money back in those days. Are we going to be able to just pay for the room? But it was right by the university that I went to. It was right on Parthenia, if you know the valley at all, Reseda, Parthenia, those areas. Now they have, I think, the Parthenian projects over there. So anyway, it says, but the land could not support them both. So Abraham and Lot, with all their flocks and herds, living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen and Abraham and Lot. And at this time, Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Okay, so again, Perizzites, Canaanites, all from, we see either Shem, Ham, or Japheth. We saw that Ham, definitely Canaanites. And it says, finally, Abraham said to Lot, now let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. Hey, man, what are we doing? The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want. So this is what Abraham says. Hey, you take a pick. You do it. Even though there's conflict with us, hey, man, you take a pick of where you want to go, and then we'll separate. And if you want the land of the left, I'll take the land on the right. And if you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left. So Abram says, hey, whichever way you go, I'm going to go the other way. And sometimes there is conflict in our lives with people. And, there's just going to be you go that way and I go this way. There's not much we can do at this point. We're just going to have to go our ways. There's an issue. It's not going to be able to get resolved. And, we're just going to have to move forward. And let's just do that in peace. Let's move forward in peace. You go your way. I go my way. And hey, we'll keep living, that kind of thing. It's nice when that can happen in peace, right? And someone just doesn't keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. And, where you got to block them, or something like that because they just keep coming at you. So it says, Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. So these were fertile plains of the Jordan Valley. The whole area was very well watered everywhere. And it says, like a garden of the Lord, or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, of course. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to the place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. But the people of this area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. Now, when you read this, you kind of go, oh, I think I've heard a lot of things wrong about this already, this kind of event. Lot, he just looked over there and he said, man, they're wicked, boy, I can't wait to party. Sometimes you get the idea, about Sodom and Gomorrah, in that kind of way. That Lot just was like, hey, let me look around. Let me see. Oh, man, there's a giant city over there. It looks like fun. But notice it says that he went to this direction of Zoar because it was well watered. It was like a garden, like the garden of the Lord, meaning the garden of the Lord was still in the consciousness of the people of the day. It's not like they were like, Eden? What's that place? The garden, Adam and Eve? Who are they? It's not like they didn't know. They had a very a good understanding of Eden, the garden, and the beauty of it. And so he goes that direction. I don't think anybody would have not gone in that kind of direction. You look at a piece of property, right? We all look at property and we go, oh, that's really nice. Oh, there's a great view. Oh, I love that view. I'm going to go there. That's what Lot's doing. So I don't think you have to, kind of conjure up that Lot was kind of like super into Sodom and Gomorrah and, that kind of thing. And it was Vegas and he couldn't wait to gamble, So Abram settled. It says, then he went and took his flocks over there and left the company of his Abram. And verse 12 says, so Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to the place near Sodom and settled among there. And it says that the people were wicked and sinned against the Lord. Hey, how about that? And it says, after Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abraham, and the reason why I say how about that is, have you sinned against the Lord? Yeah, so I guess, you're in the same boat, as Sodom and Gomorrah. They sinned against the Lord. We sinned against the Lord. This is why the Messiah is coming at this time, and who has already come, right, in our time, right, is to die for the sins of the world. Now it says, Lot had gone, and the Lord said to Abram, look, as far as you could see in every direction. Remember, Abram is in the land of Canaan. North and south, east and west. I am giving all this land to you, as far as you can see, to you and your descendants, as a permanent possession. Okay, now we have a real strong passage where not only as we saw in chapter 12, that there was a promise given to Abram that he would be the father of a nation. And this nation would be a special nation for sure. I mean, people would be blessed if they blessed Abram and his descendants, and people would be cursed if they cursed Abram and his descendants. And they would dwell in this land that God is giving them. We got that in chapter 12. But now in chapter 13, we get a permanent possession. Woo! This is going to be a permanent possession, the land of Canaan. And this is something that is inaugurated by God. And I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you. So Abraham moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak belonging to Mamre, where he built another altar to the Lord. What does Abraham do? Man, he worships the Lord. He goes, man, that's amazing. I'm going to worship the Lord. You know, when God does something cool in your life, when he gives you a promise, the best thing for us to do is to worship him, to give him thanks, to have the adoration in the right direction, towards God. You know what I also find really cool here is that it says his descendants will be like the dust of the earth. Now, you look at Israel, and it's not a big place. You look at the amount of people in Israel that are Hebrews, Jews. It's not a large population. I mean, I come from, Southern California, where you have, 13 million people, 15 million people, and then you have a whole country that's got 6 million people. Really, not a lot of people, when I think of countries. And you go dust of the earth, it's going to be like the dust of the earth. They cannot even be counted. What? Now, maybe this is a reference to kind of what's going to happen with the Hebrew people, that they are going to be dispersed into all areas of the world. And, when people diss on Hebrews, on Jews, and they're like, man, those Jews, you better be careful because you just might be. It's like, look at your ancestry. Oh, no, I'm not. Wait, you're from Shem, Ham, or Japheth. You're from one of those. And I'm sure there's some mix somewhere in there. So guess what? I just hate to tell you, friends, that you just might be one as well. And that is something that just blows my mind. And wouldn't that be like God? Just to show you just how ridiculous we sound, right? Just to show us just how lame we sound. Oh, I'm glad I'm not like you. Oh, I'm glad I'm not like you. You guys are so bad. You guys are always rich and you're money driven and you're filled with immorality and you're filled with this and you're filled with that. Yeah, yeah, you got that too. You got that too, brother. Too many of us are like the Pharisee that goes up to the temple and goes into the temple and prays, thank God, thank you, I'm not like that person over there. Too many of us are like that. Thank you, God, I'm just not like these people. Boy, they are stiff-necked people. They are bad. Oh, boy, they are ethnically bad. Can you find one good, of whatever prejudice you got? Not knowing that, guess what? We are Ieska, right? In the Lakota language, mixed blood. That's right, we are mixed blood. Ieska. I remember hanging out on the res in South Dakota, learning some Lakota back in the day. Man, that was really cool. Yeah, you're surprised by all the different lineages, all the different people in our background, and how it's impacted us. How far back do you want to go? Boy, we'd be surprised just how really we are linked. Maybe Abraham's descendants are as the dust of the earth. They cannot be counted. It is overwhelming how influential this person is. Meaning even DNA wise, how he is the father of many. And now in chapter 14, it says, and about this time war broke out in the region. Lot and Abram were brawling. Their people were brawling. They go, they separate. But guess what? There's just another battle. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes when you think like, oh, you know what? I just got done a conflict. It's going to be peaceful now. And then you find yourself just in another battle. There's always going to be something to battle. You get done, you finish, you no longer drink, right? You no longer drink. But then what else do you have to deal with? Your insecurities, your fears, your resentments, your discontentments. Okay, now you don't do drugs, but guess what? You're still a jerk because you still haven't dealt with your fear, insecurity, discontentments, anger, resentments, right? You find that there's all these other things, all these other conflicts you got to work through. And so war breaks out, and it says, King Amphrael of Babylonia, King Arioch of Elasar, and King Kedorlaomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goim fought against King Bera of Sodom, King Bersha of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Admah, King Shrimber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, also called Zoar. So let's count this. I'm curious. Okay, we got the dude of Babylonia. We got Elasar. We got Elam. We got Goim. And they fought against Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, King Shemerber, and then Bela. 10. The enemy is 10. Now, if you do a Bible study on this, you might find some interesting parallels. I remember listening to Chuck Missler years ago and him going into kind of stuff like this. But it might be something just very interesting to go into. Israel fighting against 10. See where that's maybe at. This second group of kings joined forces in Siddim Valley, that is the Valley of the Dead Sea. For 12 years they had been subject to King Kedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled against him. Hey, it sounds like today, a lot of war, a lot of government issues, a lot of conflict. And it says 1 year later, when Kedorlaomer and his allies arrived and defeated the Rephaites at Asheroth, Carmaim, the Zuzites at Ham, the Emites at Shavah Kiriathaim, and the Horites at Mount Seir, as far as El Paran at the edge of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Misfat, now called Kadesh, and conquered all the territory of the Amalekites and also the Amorites living in Hazazon Tamar. Then the rebel king of Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim and Bela, also called Zoar, prepared for battle in the Valley of the Dead Sea. They fought against King Kedorlaomer of Elam, King Tidal, and the kings against the 5. And it happened, the Valley of the Dead Sea was filled with tar pits. Hey, remember La Brea tar pits out in California? The La Brea tar pits? And it says, and as the army of the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into the tar pits, while the rest escaped into the mountains. The victorious invaders then plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home. So Sodom and Gomorrah has been through a lot. It's been through a lot of war. People kind of all over the place, I'd imagine. War-torn country, not too good. Not too many good things going on. And it says, taking with them all the spoils of war and the food supplies. And they also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom, and carried off everything he owned. So by this time, we see that Lot has moved into Sodom. Seems like when we first heard this, the kind of event, he was kind of on the outskirts, but now it seems like he's definitely in, doing business, doing his things, thing like that. But it is a war-torn country. The place is a mess. It's an interesting, and he's been taken captive, right? He was carried off with everything he owned. People come in. Is that like today where people come in and they take over? And they take charge, and they kill, and they go into a house, and they take out, and they take people. And yeah, it's very much like today. So Sodom and Gomorrah is a place where it's pretty messed up. It's gone through a lot. I don't know if you've ever gone through a time of war in a particular city. Most of us never have gone through that. Some people have gone on vacation to visit places that have been war-torn. And it's quite, I'm sure, the event. I grew up close, not too far from Los Angeles, from inner city Los Angeles. So going to East LA or South Central or Compton, right, or Crenshaw District, those kind of places, they were part of my growing up days. And you see war-torn areas, meaning you see war-torn gang areas, and they're not the place you just want to walk through, right? There's serious issues going on in the inner city, right? As the song says, there ain't no love in the ghetto. And man, it's really tough, So I imagine this is a tough situation, and it has been a tough place to live. And it says, but one of Lot's men escaped and reported everything to Abram the Hebrew, who is living. So now we see the word Hebrew used, which is interesting. What is the origins of the word Hebrew? Well, it might be in one of those descendants of Shem. I think we heard a guy named Eber, and I kind of kept saying, Eber, what does that mean? It might be a guy like that where it comes from, Hebrew comes from one of these names. It says, who is living near the oak grove belonging to Mamre the Amorite. So Abram is living near the oak grove belonging to Mamre the Amorite. And Mamre and his relatives Eshcol and Aner were Abram's allies. They hooked up with Abram. And when Abram heard that his nephew Lot had been captured, he mobilized the 318 trained men who had been born into his household, and meaning all of his labor force had babies and had families as well, and they had kids, and they raised up an army, 318 strong. And then he pursued Kedar Laomer's army until he caught up with them at Dan. There he divided his men and attacked during the night. Kedar Laomer's army fled, but Abram chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. Damascus is an old place, isn't it? Boy, Abram recovered all the goods that had been taken, and he brought back his nephew Lot with his possessions and all the women and other captives. So you see, there's not much difference going on today, right? Just as the IDF went into the place of Gaza to try to free people, find hostages, so you see Abram doing this all the way back in the day. Wow, it's amazing how things really haven't changed much. And it says, after Abram returned from his victory over Kedorlaomer and his allies, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Sheva, that is the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, interesting, king of Salem. Sounds like Jerusalem, but it's Salem. Could it be the same place? And a priest of the Most High God. So this is interesting. A king and a priest brought Abram some bread and wine. Melchizedek blessed Abraham with this blessing. What does he bring Abraham? Bread and wine. What is that a picture of? Bread and wine. I mean, hey, everybody Catholic out there goes, oh, that's communion. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like a communion. Hey, we're going to have some communion time. There's something that this guy knows, Melchizedek. He's king of Salem, and he's a priest of God Most High. What a great name, God Most High. You ain't Most High. I ain't Most High. The person on TV ain't Most High. the great sports guy you like, the great musician, they ain't most high. There's only one most high, and that's God. That's the deity. In Melchizedek, this interesting guy who's a king from Salem, most people believe this is Jerusalem, and he's also a priest. He's also someone who intercedes on behalf of the people to God. And he takes bread and wine to Abram. And he goes, hey, let's partake. Now, Bob brought up Psalm 110. And I would imagine, Bob, this is that psalm, the Melchizedek psalm. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if that's the psalm. But there is a mention of Melchizedek in the Psalms. So that might be it. And it's interesting, there's also a mention of Melchizedek where? In the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. Might want to check that out too. Now it says this priest and this king who hangs out with God and intercedes on behalf of the people, brings bread and wine, and blesses Abraham. And it says, blessed be Abraham, God of the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has defeated your enemies for you. What an interesting prayer, too. Is there other prayers that are kind of like this in the Bible? You might want to check it out. Blessed be Abram, the Most High, creator of heaven and earth. Wow. I can think of Jesus saying something like this when he broke bread, right? Thank God, the creator of heaven and earth. Oh man, I'm not saying it's, that Melchizedek is Jesus, but I'm saying, boy, there is some similarities there. And thanks for confirming that, Bob. And then Abraham gave Melchizedek a tenth of all of his goods he had recovered. So notice, Abraham gives a tenth of all the goods that he had recovered to Melchizedek, meaning he paid a tithe to Melchizedek. He said, man, you know what? I'm so blessed by you, Melchizedek. Boom. There you go. Man, I'm so blessed by your ministry. I'm so blessed by your spiritual input into my life. Man, I just want to, I'm going to financially help you out. Man, that is beautiful. And we see a pattern there of ministry, pastors being paid, people being paid who give spiritually. It's not a bad thing. It's not a wrong thing. We see that all the way back here, Abram gives the one who he deems as, man, greater than him, Melchizedek. And he says, not as far as like God loves Melchizedek more than Abraham kind of thing, but just kind of, he values his role. He values that spiritual input. Hopefully you and I, we value the spiritual input people give into our life, that we don't ignore that. Thanks, Bob, for that breakdown there. Love it. And it says, so the king of Sodom said to Abram, give back my people who were captured, but you may keep for yourself all the goods that you have recovered. And Abram replied to the king of Sodom, I solely swear to the Lord, God Most High, same kind of prayer as Melchizedek, creator of heaven and earth. Isn't that interesting? Abram learns from Melchizedek. Oh boy, can we just learn from those who have spiritually fed into us? Do what they do. Learn to live as they follow the Lord. Abram learns from Melchizedek. Praise like him. And it says, otherwise you might say, well, let me say this. It says, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a single thread or sandal among our thong from what belongs to you. Otherwise, you might say, I am the one who made Abram rich. I will accept only what my young warriors have already eaten, and I request that you give a fair share of the goods to my allies, Ener, Eshcol, and Mamre. Hey, don't give me nothing, man. I don't want nothing, because I don't want you to think that, my success is from you. boy, is this really cool. Being able to just say, hey, even though you used your resources, even though you use your own money, even though you use your own things, right? You're not doing it for the payoff. You're not doing it to get paid. You're not doing it. The money's not the primary, right? You want God to be glorified. And that's what Abram's heart is. Man, is that my heart? Is it really about the business of God being glorified? Or is it really about me? Is it about me getting my props? That kind of thing. Is your heart really about glorifying God in the church? Is that really what you want to see? Or is it, I wish the church was this way. I wish the church was that way. Oh, the church would be better if it was my way. And, is it all, are you focused on Jesus? Are you focused on your religion? Are you focused on your ceremony? Are you focused on, you and what you think is great and what you think, or are you focused on Jesus and learning to love Jesus and learning to love people? Not wanting the glory for yourself, but wanting God to get the glory. It's powerful. But what a great example to us, really, of how to do it. Abram certainly worked hard. He certainly used resources, but he just didn't want to take away from the idea that God was the one who was giving him success. No one else. It was nothing else. It wasn't Sodom. It wasn't the person who gave him the right song. It wasn't the person who gave, those kind of things, the right this, the right that. Oh, you just plugged in the right. But it was God. God did it. It was a miraculous thing. And God's going to sustain me. He's not only going to save me, but he's going to sustain me. Man, that is so cool. He really honed in on that. Very cool. So Tina's thinking the book of Romans. Yes, absolutely. So God not only saves Abraham, but he sustains Abraham, and he gives him great promises. And he gives him the ability to go into battle. And God gives him great, if you will, a reprise, to be able to sit down with a minister, to sit down with the priest of the Most High God, the King of Salem, of Jerusalem, and to have some good Bible times, good study time. Wow, it's great. I love that. We should think of church that way. This is a time for me, reprise, to be able to just chill out and, man, love other people and learn to get the word and listen to what God has for me. Cool stuff. Okay, you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining me on Genesis 13 and 14. It's in the books. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.